Alright. There we go. There we go. We just... Perfect. Now, all I have to do is... Where's the shift? They've... It's been so long since I've done this. Either it's been so long since I've done this, or just... I don't know anymore how to share this. Uh... There has to be a link. There's no share.
From where? From YouTube?
I mean, I'm on YouTube Studio.
Okay, so if you're streaming on YouTube, all you got to do is just open up a new window and then go to your own page, and you should see the stream live on the display there. And then you can just go into the actual like stream and copy it. That's how I've been doing it. I don't know if there's a link.
Yeah, that makes sense. Channel
on the display there, and then you can just go into the actual like stream and copy.
Okay. Wait. Hold on. Let me edit this. I think the thumbnail is still the same. Oh shit! I need to change it. Change. Let me just actually. There we go. This will do for now. Okay. Oh, there's pin chat now. I can actually do pin chat. That's great. I know how. Anyway. Let's see. About my experience. Hold on.
I'm on radio.
Close. I guess close enough. I guess it's close enough. Let's see. Then let's.
Oh wow, I have 63% of the minions. Didn't know that, and 47% of the mounts. Okay.
Yeah, I just didn't really care anymore. It's like I got my mounts. I got what I needed. I got what I want.
And the verification on the screenshot there is showing me on my Reaper outfit saying that I'm eye level 580. It's like my Reaper's only 75. There's no way it's 580. But you know that's a bot for you. It doesn't pull the information, the most most recent information. It's whatever the server has pinged. So
yeah, I've noticed that as well. It's a little bit. It does get a bit clunky, although thankfully right now it's not as. What's this? And last is my gaming Twitter. Okay, now is the perfect opportunity. I can actually go back. Let's see. This. We go up to the thing. Here we go. Okay. Let's see. Well, there's not really anyone really watching right now, but let's see. I guess we just start now, and it's like if anyone does end up watching, it's like, oh well. Actually, wait, there's another server I forgot.
Well, I mean, if anybody starts watching randomly and they ask questions, then, you know, I mean, like they're like what they're and like what we think we find best about the game or something like that, then you know we can sidetrack a little bit to kind of help answer the question for them, because it might help if like people get interested in the game, but they're wanting to find out, like, from a person that's been playing the game for so long compared to somebody that's only been playing like the first two expansions to see how their experiences are.
Yeah, pretty much. Anyway, let me just scroll. Where's fuck, I got lost. Here we go. Okay, so honestly, one of the things I kind of wanted to start about the free trial of it is just there are only about like I think three things I don't really like about the trial so far, about like the free trial experience so far, and it's not really a lot. And everything else I really like about the game, about the free trial, and then I like about the game. It just and it makes me really want to buy like the complete edition. But other than that, these three things I just find really, they feel bad. They really just make me feel bad. So yeah, the first thing I don't really like is I think it's a bit lame that you can't really send friend requests to other players if you're on the free trial. Like I can sort of see it because of like bots and stuff like that.
Well,
But
all of the three things that you have in mind, which I know exactly what they are
yeah.
specifically there to prevent RMTs, so that people can't get into the game and use the free trial to make a bunch of gil and then sell
Ah,
it off.
you mean like
That's what
dupes?
well, not dupes. It's just having bots like gil farmers that go around and like gather a bunch of like crystals and things like that on a free trial, which at that point, that would completely like flood the market with nonsense, and like the economy would buckle.
I
So
see.
at that point, it's forcing the RMTs to buy the game to be able to create an account, and then when they get banned, they have to go buy another version of the game again and redo everything. So it's a twofold thing. Square Enix is making money out of that and it's also preventing RMTs from being able to get a free, easy like money.
And
That's why
it preserves the economy of the game as well.
Exactly. That's why it limits you to only having a maximum of about 1 million gil. Or actually, I think it's less than
It
1 million
it's
gil for
300K. I
yeah,
know this because
300K.
I haven't
You
really
can't
been
trade.
yeah, I haven't really been spending recently on the Gale. Think I guess at one point I will do, but I have been it's mostly been like going up down up down. It's kind of like diabetes.
Yeah, so
It's all
that's why they
extremes.
don't allow you retainers, because that's the only way you can sell stuff in the market boards is using the retainers. So at that point it limits your inventory space and all of that, which also prevents
That one I
farming.
didn't know. Honestly, I really just wanted the retainers in order to make like my farm my shard farming easier, but thankfully it's not the farming and grinding isn't really as bad as I thought that initially was, which we'll get to a bit later. Although,
Well, with the fixes, no. Back then, when it first launched, yes.
yeah,
When the trial first launched, it was.
yeah. Uh I guess another one is well, yeah. The next part will be it's basically about like the PvP roulettes because they're kind of you know how like you unlock PvP on like level 30 and then
Mhm.
it's like yeah you also end up unlocking the PvP roulettes because of it. And then when you because people have been saying from time to time that it's like or at least from what I've been looking around, it's also a good way of farming of getting XP. But then it's like when
Mhm.
I try to use it, it's like, oh, I can't play PvP. And it's like, huh, pain. Because his
Yeah, because a lot of the PvP stuff like is included with like the later expansions. So
it's all so more majority of the PvP content is basically locked behind the what's this? Behind the expansions from like Stormblood onwards and stuff like that.
pretty much. So because Heavensward doesn't have like at the beginning of Heavensward, if I recall, it's been so long. It's I don't remember PvP being a major thing during Heavensward.
Yeah, there doesn't really seem to be much PvP content in like Heavensward. I only remember ARR. But yeah, funny if I was kind of I was still amused at like PvP and ARR because then it's like, oh hey, they have a MOBA. That one made me giggle, the MOBA thing.
Yeah, they've PvP has gotten a lot of facelift changes since it released.
Hmm. And then yeah, I guess another thing I sort of understand because the queues because using the duty finder isn't so. At least now I sort of appreciate this last issue I have. Oh, hello, Dark of All Traits. We're talking
Welcome.
about like my Final Fantasy XIV experience, and with me is Jarek, who is basically a legacy player. He's been playing since 1.0. When in 1.0 did you actually get in? Actually,
I started in alpha and beta.
alpha and beta. Wow,
hmm
that's wow.
Oh, now that I think about it, I know why PvP is not allowed in the free trial.
Oh, do you?
It's it's because of the rankings. There's rankings in PvP and everything like that, and since you're not you don't have an actual like paid account, that's a feature
Ah,
locked behind that because you can't get into ranking battles, you can't get into like like feast and everything like that, which is the ranking stuff. So since you're in a free account, you can't really like talk to people or create friends to kind of create private groups to do that. So that's
right.
why it's locked out.
So you might as well lock it out. Yeah.
Exactly. Because why give people access to like part of the PvP and then they're not able to actually gain anything out of it? Because with PvP, you can actually get unique mounts that are only available during like the feast events and things like that.
I see. I see. That makes a lot of sense. Uh, and yeah, my third one. Although recently I have been appreciating why they did the third one. Not using the party finder. I guess one thing that I found because mostly I really wanted to use the party finder specifically for like Palace of the Dead because I really want because there was a time where it was mostly you just had to do with like when I logged in when I was logging in, and it was like, oh, there doesn't really seem to be a lot of people in this queue, and it's like it's taking me 30 minutes. It's like it'll take up to 30 minutes maybe, and it's like I don't see a lot of people trying to get past do 4150 in Palace of the Dead. It's like, oh well. it's well, it actually I actually wound up resorting to like joining a deep dungeon Discord where hopefully I can like get find people to do 41 to 50 if I ever get around to that again.
Well, there's another reason why you can't use the party finder.
Something to do with bots, or is it like
It's because people used to use the party finder to do things such as like announce like, hey, I'm selling this plot of land, or hey, I'm selling a clear. So RMTs would use it to, if it was available for a free trial, RMTs would use it as a way to advise people, it's like, hey, I'm selling Gil, or hey, I'm doing this.
yeah.
So they end up locking that too. So pretty much there's a lot of the core features that are locked in the free trial, but you do of course get full access to everything from 1 through 60,
Yeah.
the main story and everything.
That's
Well,
great though.
you did, since you can't create accounts anymore right now.
Yeah. That's something I really enjoy though, because it's like it it's really basically with like five expand the game being in like one, two, three, four, is it five expansions? Yeah, five expansions or four expansions. It's like there's a lot of binging that you have to do as like a new player when it comes to the story. So it's really going to it's like it's you're basically binging Netflix from like the free trial experience. You're binging ARR all the way up until Heavensward, and then but right now, when you ever get the option to have the chance to buy the complete edition, you will have to go through all the way from Stormblood to Endwalker, which is actually why my plan once I get everything to level 60, and then I also, if I can, also try to finish co- the ba- the Coil of Bahamut raids because I haven't actually gotten around to that. I only finished in terms of raids. I only finished like up to the Void Ark Alliance raids and the Alexander raids.
Oh, you need to do Bahamut, because Coil of Bahamut actually shows you a, so the opening cutscene, right?
Yeah.
So the opening cutscene where like you see Bahamut break out of the I call it a Pokeball. A lot of people end up calling it that too instead of Dalamud.
Yeah.
But when he breaks out, the Warriors of Light, which in that cutscene are the 1.0 players that get teleported into the future 5 years or get locked in the time portal for 5 years. You actually get to see what happens after that event and why, instead of the realm being fully destroyed, what stopped Bahamut.
I see. Okay. Because one other friend was like suggesting I do the Coils of Bahamut because it's like there's a part in he was like, oh, there's a part in Endwalker where it's like you're going to be doing where you're going to it's going to make references to all the raids that are in the game so far, and it's like that's I mean, I'll eventually get around to that. It's like it's one of those things where like it just doesn't really fully convince me, but it's like, you know what, fine, I'll get around to that. But yeah. Well, that sounds interesting. Which actually leads me to the MSQs of my experience with the MSQ so far. I guess if anything, the only complaint, well, it's a common complaint anyway, but it's like really the only thing I felt was like ARR is a really super slow start, which to be fair is really kind of common in most MMOs anyway, where you're kind of just really slow. It really does feel slow. And it only picks up like a little bit later on. But for the most part, I'd say I really do enjoy like the story of Final Fantasy XIV. It picked at least I felt, although right, my favorite is definitely near the end of ARR and then Heavensward. And honestly, with how the story leads up to Stormblood, I'm really interested because I was actually well, it's only Dark of all traits. Dark of, are you still watching Dark? Because I don't really remember. But like, what's this? How far are you Dark of all traits in Final Fantasy 14? Because we're practically going to be talking, basically spoiling A Realm Reborn and Heavensward. So, yeah, if you haven't gotten to the free trial and you don't want your experience to be spoiled, it's like, mm, probably probably back off a bit first, and then otherwise, if you just want to see how like a new player thinks about the game, it's like go on, stay. And that's kind of the whole point of why I wanted this stream in the first place, because I think this was something I think that would be really fun to talk about, especially with like older players and just seeing like basically just expanding just the understanding a lot more about the game, because I've really been enjoying Final Fantasy 14, and I honestly can't wait to get like the complete edition once it's available again.
Which it should be. We should be hearing more about the availability and of the upgrades of the servers by middle of this month.
Hopefully.
So Yoshi P mentioned that they're going to be releasing some more information about when the new data centers are going to come up. So they're actually expanding the North American data center, the Japanese data center, and then they're making a brand new Oceania data center.
Oh wow, Oceania, that's great actually. Although I actually do wonder about that, because like man, with Omicron hitting in full swing, I actually work online retail, and we have a warehouse that's in Hong Kong, and Hong Kong got hit so hard.
I mean, everywhere got hit hard. It's just the government wasn't paying attention much or
I mean, I guess,
fast
but
enough. So
I guess it's just yeah, it kind of affected like their shipping for online retail. I actually we actually can't deliver any more orders anymore to like usually in specifically in the West. So America, USA is out of the picture, Canada's out of the picture. I think yeah, Mexico's out of the picture. If anything, we can only ship within Asia, so that's like yeah, it feels bad, man. Especially since like what's this? Most of our like resellers, most of our customers are in the West. But thankfully we have like resellers and other networks and whatnot, even Amazon, thankfully. So there's that. But yeah, I think one thing I did find a bit of a jarring experience from like going through the story of ARR to Heavensward was the sudden change of voice actors. It's one thing when it's like you're experiencing it from like 2.0 and then Heavensward comes out. It's like but it's like the sudden change of like voice actors, especially in the English dub in particular, it feels really awkward and weird at first. Like
Well, there's a reason behind that. It's just, and that's also the reason. This is also the reasoning why A Realm Reborn felt slow to a lot of people. It's actually was slower before you started. During Shadowbringers release, they actually like consolidated and removed a lot of the quests from like the fetch quests from the game that were part of the main scenario. So they kind of streamlined the story a little bit more.
mhm.
And also, when Shadowbringers dropped, they made a major change to the main scenario. Before, the main scenario stopped, you know, on its tracks at the very end, and you could just go into Heavensward. But now they're forcing you to do the raids.
Yeah, the
So
Crystal
you
Tower
have to actually
raids.
you have to do the Crystal Tower raids because they're a big impact on Shadowbringers.
And that's actually honestly that was something I surprisingly enjoyed in terms of like the Crystal Tower. The story was kind of really got me in the end, especially with like Rahatia having to resort to like locking putting the Crystal Tower into sleep in or hibernation again in order until like humanity or like the people in what's this Eorzea have advanced enough in terms of technology.
Kinda. There's a bigger impact on that. You will see when you get the full game and actually get into Shadowbringers. I won't spoil any of that.
That's fair.
There's a big reason for it.
But yeah. Uh Heavens I think one of the things the one of the speaking of stories, one of the when going through Heavensward, one of the characters I did not expect to like as much was Isael. Because like yeah, she really you know how like in the seventh Umbral or Astral era. I think it was Astral. Anyway, near the end of like on leading into like Heavensward, Isel really does come off as a bit of a bitch for the lesser for
Yeah. I mean, she's a reincarnation of, well, she becomes a reincarnation of Shiva.
or
So,
she as what she believes to be Shiva as
yeah.
the story goes on. But it's like yeah, I really like the fight with Shiva, and then Isael as a character was not someone I was expecting to like as much or even grow on me. Because like the stuff that she goes through throughout the story is just ooh, you really feel that. And the as sad as like her sacrifice is towards the end of like the Heavensward story, it really there's no way to actually end it like there's no other way that you can change how her journey ends basically.
Well, if you've noticed when she does the major sacrifice, Istola mentions that the crystal that she's holding is a high crystal from Heidelin.
Yep.
So she was a chosen like warrior, but she knew that she wasn't going to live.
Yeah,
That's why she was.
you're kind of under that impression the moment you say she does like the thing. She says like the line what was that? Hear, feel, think.
Yeah. But in your other, like the other mention that you had just a little bit earlier, where you mentioned that, why it's the story is so slow and everything like that to kind of take off, is you also got to take into consideration this is a reboot of 1.0. 1.0 failed horrendously.
Yep.
So they wanted to make sure that the new story was established and all of the characters had enough time to breathe and weren't kind of just sidelined right off the bat like many other MMOs do.
Yeah.
So because of that, they ended up, spending a lot more time in the world building so you can get used to it and everything like that. Um,
Yeah, it does
and it's
work out. Sorry, go ahead.
and it's also the reason why there's the two different stories side by side for Heavens or for Shadowbringer or not Shadowbringers, Realm Reborn. Legacy players get a slightly different story than the new players, and it's because they're trying to bring all of it together, and it just takes up too much resources.
Right. That was actually one of the things that really got me. You did like a video on like the story for like legacy players for compared to like the story for new players. That was something I really liked about like I really thought was really neat about Final Fantasy XIV. And ultimately it was the one that like, you know what, I'll give it a try. Cuz like even if I'm not a legacy player, it's like it's something that sounds really neat.
Yeah, sadly, the only way you can see those cutscenes is either have a legacy player on like Discord showing you the cutscenes or YouTube them because no other player can see them but the small amount of legacy players. Because right now, the way most people have to see it, legacy players are the minority in 14.
I see.
So we're literally the smallest group in the game, but because we stood by the game and we believed in the game after Yoshi P took over, it's the reason it's still here.
I see. Let's see. Uh hmm. Actually, if you don't mind, I want to talk a bit about like the lead into like Dragon about like Stormblood cuz like I was watching the trailer for Stormblood the other day and I thought at first I was like, "Oh, that's neat." And then later on I realized, "Oh, is the blonde girl that's fighting the character that one guy Lise?" Cuz I remembered like
Yes.
near the end of like Stormblood, uh Ida reveals that she's actually Lise, and that Ida was her older sister who died trying to save people.
Yes.
Yeah, honestly, I'm excited for that because like it's now it's a huge jump from like it's one thing when it's like Heavens where there's a new nation. Now with Stormblood there are two nations, so it's going to be like Alamigo, and then there's Doma. That one really has me excited.
So pretty much we're going to the way most people see it is you're going to the Far East or like Asia, and then you have like
Alamigo's
so
middle sounds like mid.
Alamigos is yeah like more like Middle East slash like the trying to find remember what they were using as like inspiration for it, but it's Mediterranean style like areas.
Yeah, that was really my impression with like Alamigo. It really does seem like a Middle East kind of place.
And you can see it by the architecture that they use and everything like that.
Although, and yeah, uh, I don't honestly the story was a bit short. The story section was a little bit shorter than I imagined because like I was just busy, so a little bit more busy with like grinding and stuff like that, trying to get to level 60 after everything, like, going through all the story that I kind of it kind of just went over my head a little bit. But honestly, I really did enjoy the story for the most part. Yeah, ARR was slow, but the way it ended was actually fairly satisfying, and I really do like how they structure their way the story to lead up to the expansions. It's really neat, and I like it in this because it just makes a lot of sense.
Well, it's something that they've been like working with for the longest time. It's changed a little bit, but they've always made it so like the base expansion pack, let's say you're looking at Heavensward. The base expansion pack starts at 3.0. You get up to the end of it and you resolve the major like
The result,
part of the story. Like like the major part, like the major conflicts that's there.
Yeah, the
And
Dragon
then,
Song War.
well, you don't resolve the full Dragon Song War. You resolve, um, the costs that like kept the current like generation in the Dragon Song War.
Yeah.
But the Dragon Song War still continued at the end because of Estinian,
Right.
being taken over. Well, and then the rest of the expansion is resolve actually doing the full closeout of the Dragon Sun War and then connecting to the new expansion.
Yeah,
So
I actually remember
3.1 to 3.5 is where like you at that point is what they did. They changed that with Shadowbringers though.
that
Or not
part.
Shadowbringers, Endwalker.
That last fight with like what's this? That last fight
Nidhogg.
with yeah, Nidhogg. That actually hit me really hard, especially when it's like they started playing the Dragon Song War, and it's like, and I was still playing Monk. I was still using my main, which was a Monk. And I was like, oh man, they're really going to be hitting me while I'm just wait. It's like, oh god, I'm really going to be hit hard by this song while I'm waiting in the queue, and it's like, oh god.
I mean, Final Fantasy XIV, hands down, like if you look at all of the expansions together, not just, the story of this expansion, the story of just this expansion, like in its entirety together, has one of the best Final Fantasy stories, period.
Yeah, I've definitely noticed that.
Because I've had people ask me, it's like, so is the story of Final Fantasy XIV that good? I'm like it's hands down the best Final Fantasy game, story wise, ever made. And they're like, is it better than 10? I was like, yeah, it's better than 10 stories. 10
Ten's
only
not
made me cry.
10's not
It made
really
me
that
cry
good.
at the end. It made
Yeah,
me cry at the end. But this has made me cry in at least every expansion at least once or twice.
and people's favorite is like 7, like sure. But it's not it's okay.
Don't get me in. Don't get me into the subject of 7. That's my least favorite Final Fantasy. I'd rather play Mystic Quest than play 7.
Ooh, spicy. Ah,
At least Mystic Quest had a killer soundtrack.
hey. But yeah, and then I do like how they it sort of really does end with like Elbert using Nidhogg's eyes to summon Shinryu. Shinryu, right, is what I believe he's called. Oh, hey,
Yes.
Thesia. And then that fight with Omega was actually kind of fun. So I'm excited about like so I can't wait for the getting the Omega raid. Because my plan for when it comes to continuing the story once I get the complete edition, it's like mostly I'm just going to be finishing main quest and then unlock raids and then continue with MSQ, then continue MSQ, rinse repeat. Because at least then I will have some context with like Heavensward onwards. And also I have more raids for my roulettes, so that'd be great.
Those are always good. The raids are fun. It's just sometimes you don't get parties with people that just don't pay attention or haven't learned the mechanics because they like didn't do any of the dungeons they boosted, which is not. It's fine if you boost. Is the biggest reason. The biggest thing is the game is structured to the way where as you're playing the expansion and doing the story dungeons and everything like that, you are taught all of the mechanics you're going to need for the raids and the alliance raids.
Yeah, because it was only in like the Nidhogg fight where I actually started noticing you know that, the first thing where I was noticing like, you know how like they put like an arrow on top of your character, so then you usually have to stray away from your party first in order for them to not get hit by the AOE. Like it's
Well, it
actually
depends on the color of the markers too. So, like the first fight that introduced the stack marker, which is that gold arrow that kind of has like the arrows pointing inward,
yeah.
was Thornton. That was the first one to introduce that, and then they started like
Thornton.
people
When
were
was
favorable about it.
Thornton?
Thornton is the final part of 3.0, where you fight the old guy and
Ah,
the
right,
knight
right,
of
right, right.
the
Him.
round.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was the one that started introducing like an arrow that looked like the stack mechanic and everything like that, and it went well. So people like they favored it a lot more than the
Yeah,
prior stack mechanics because
there's
the prior stack mechanics look the same as everything else.
yeah, I was about to actually get to that, but I was also talking about like that one thing, one attack where, what's this? That Nidhogg does, where he puts an arrow on top of on top of individual characters, and like, if they're within their group, and if they get hit, they also cause AOE damage to their party members. So you have to like run away, back off from the group and stuff like that. Because like,
Oh, you're talking about like the one that has like the massive AOE circle around you that leaves the bleeding.
yeah, because because the first time I actually saw something like that was because I was actually I actually went back to like by chance. I went back to the Shiva trial, to the Shiva fight in the trial roulette. And she actually does have an attack where she does put an arrow on top of individual characters, and it's like, okay. It's like, oh, I have to back off. Otherwise,
It's more. It kind of looks like an arrow, but it's more like an ice crystal floating over your head, and then you like. What usually will tell you to get away is if you have an AOE circle around you, like
yeah,
on the floor. Which you
yeah,
see that with Shiva is like you have like this little like ice like circle around you that lets you know that you need to be away from people because they'll take splash damage if they're anywhere near you.
yep, and yeah. So
But no, the game literally teaches you as you do this main story and can like do the dungeons progressing, teaches you how to play the game and the new mechanics and how to do them for the rest of the game. It's just people who like boost and don't have never done any of those stuff, they're at a disadvantage because they won't know what the mechanics are. They have to learn the hard way, which kind of slows them down a little bit and kind of in a
admit,
sense.
admittedly, it's one of the things. It's one of the reasons why I find like their option to like sell the story skips and stuff like and what have you not. It's a bit jarring. Like I can only see it being useful if you're making alts for whatever reason, even though the game is designed in a way that you don't need alts.
It's more like, so like let's say you have a main character and you're on Hyperion or Primal, but then you have a friend that can only play on, because their internet's not that the greatest, they can only play like either on a Japanese server or a European server. Well, then
Yeah,
at that point, if you make a character on the European data center or the Japanese data center, you can buy the story skip and you can buy the level boost. And since you're already a veteran of the game,
yeah,
then
you
you can
under
just, yeah, you can skip ahead and kind of join them and help them out and kind of teach them more about the game as they go.
yeah, that's where I feel like it shines. Otherwise,
That's how they uh when they initially like revealed that they were doing that, that's exactly how they marketed it. They're like we do not recommend brand new players to do story skip or boost. We recommend them to go through the story and everything like that because you're going to learn how to play the game that way. If not, if you do the story skip and everything like that, you're not going to have, the idea or the knowledge of like how some of these mechanics work.
and you're going to end up like Quinn 69. That was funny. That shit
Where's
was
the
good.
heels?
That shit with Quinn 69 was funny. Funnily enough, I've known about that guy since like I used to play Diablo 3 a lot. So, and he was kind
See
of
the
a relevant
the
streamer at that time.
the only thing about him, like people didn't get pissed off because he skipped. People didn't get pissed off because he just was horrible because he didn't learn the mechanics. What got people pissed off is the fact that he literally said the story is utter shit and he never touched it. He literally, you want to know how far he got? He got to Sastasha. That is how far he got into the story.
So Sasha.
That's how far he got into the story. He level skipped and then started doing the most recent raids and like started wiping parties and complaining about not being healed when he was stepping on two massive AoE circles at the same time.
Sasha. Oh my god.
So people weren't pissed that he level boosted. They were pissed because he was bad mouthing the story of the game and he only made it to Sastasha, which
Oh,
was level
that's
14.
even funnier understanding that now. That's just, oh my lord.
No wonder I'm taking so much damage. I'm in the middle of leveling 2, and I forgot to have my chocobo out, so I'm like dying.
Oh hey Greg, we're just talking about like my Quinn69 was like he's mostly a Blizzard streamer. I know him from like Diablo 3, but then he moved on to like WoW because like Diablo 3 didn't really have, kind of just became dry. So and then after that with like WoW going down, I think he eventually decided to try to hop onto the Final Fantasy XIV bandwagon, and yeah, he level skipped after just clearing Stasha.
No, he level skipped and he story skipped because
Yeah.
you need to do story skip to unlock. You need to do the story to unlock the savages. So
Yeah.
he had to do both. And people. I believe people from the WoW rating guild Echo, um, they skipped. Like they level skipped and everything like that, but they took the time to learn. Like they sat down and spent hours actually like doing the fights and learning them.
This is actually leading into like another thing that I wanted to talk about, combat, because like sure, like most RPGs it has stats and what have you not, but for the most part it's really skill based in a sense. Like you have to understand how the mechanics of the fight work. Yep, if there's like a big AoE you have to avoid, and then whatever other mechanics there are, sometimes you have to find out, oh, you need to take out this mob first, or like say uh oh, there's this thing that's making the boss invulnerable, so you have to kill it. Greg, we're not really drama talking. It kind of just segued into like talking about Quinn 69. For the most part, I just really want to talk about like my experience playing Final Fantasy 14 and like getting into the whole groove of the game. But yeah, stats aren't, you don't really feel stats as much as like as compared to like learning skills and like especially understanding your class, how your class works, what are like the what is like an ideal rotation, what are your goals, and especially with like I think we were talking about it the other day where I was like leveling my astrologian, and you were talking about like how it's better to what's this, how to set how to do the heals first and then help the group by dealing damage. And that was
Yeah,
eventually, and that was something I eventually started doing, and I felt like I was doing a fairly decent job for the most part. Although, admittedly, when I was doing the same with Scholar, but it's like, man, Scholar's kind of a stressful playstyle for me, not gonna lie. Although I guess it's
every healer's playstyle is different. The first thing you got to focus if you're going to be playing a healer is learn the battle, learn the dance, learn the mechanics, and make sure that you're able to heal effectively. And then once you actually learn all of that, then you can actually start like throwing just less heals here and there, and throwing more damage. Because then
yeah.
at that point, you know when all of the attacks are coming, when all of the mitigation is required,
And you know
and
when is a really good time to get to heal everyone, because there really are gaps in the fight where it's like, okay, there's like a 10-second breather, everyone, and then at that point it's really nice to have like a macro where you're like, everyone huddle, I'm gonna heal, or like, oh, I'm resurrecting this guy, and what have you not. Although the nice thing about like especially, well, one of the things I like about Astrologian is they have like they have two regen spells. One is single target, the other is AoE. For my flow has been like, I do the AoE regen first, and then I apply the single target regen on the tank specifically. Because it's like, as long as I know that the AoE regen is gone, that's when I know I need to refresh. And then I just use that. That'll mostly serve as like my main heal. Hello?
yep.
Okay. Okay. It's just the stream's a little bit weird. I think it's been dropping again. But yeah, okay, it's back to good connection. But yeah, what's this? I just use that as I just set up the regen first, and then I just go back to dealing damage, and then either if I need to reapply the regen again, or somebody took somebody took a massive hit, that's when I start healing, and then that's when I go back into the fight.
Yeah, it's all the fights are structured in like a form of a dance. Except certain fights have been like done 100% random. But once you know what the attacks are and everything like that, you can literally adjust to the dance and like change your movements.
And I
But
think sorry, yeah, you finish first.
you know, it's something that like people have been talking about to the developers over time. It's just they kind of got tired of like everything being scripted dances. And so they've been adding a lot more randomness to the game so mechanics can actually shift and change 100%. You won't know exactly what's going to come next because they have a pool of like 2 or 3 different attacks that they can do, and it's going to be like random.
That's fair. Although I admit I actually do like it because the thing I like most about it is it translates the turn-based routes that Final Fantasy had. It does it fairly well for like especially as an MMO.
That's actually a nice way of looking at it. It's just when you are playing a turn-based RPG, you don't know what they're going to use next. I mean, they sometimes will have scripted attacks, but it's depending on like their health and everything like that. But their attacks can be completely random.
Yeah. Although, yeah, it's a fair complaint to add like the to add a. It's a fair suggestion to do add randomness into more fights, into harder fights, because it's not like you can actually predict what the enemies do in a turn-based game. Not always, anyway. Like I feel like the only time you can sort of predict that is like I think the last time I felt like you could do that was like Final Fantasy 9, I think. Although 10 does have like the whole flow thing, so you can kind of just prepare for that. But yeah, I do like the combat in the game because like it does, even when it's like point and click, there's still a lot of like skill based stuff. So, and even if your gear is not always up to par, it's at least manageable.
As long as you use food and things like that, you can pretty much do a lot of the content with slightly lower gear.
Mm.
But they're making it now so some of the content you can't even get into unless you meet the item level requirements.
Yeah, Goober library is like that actually. Level 59 and then you need item 120, which is kind of nice, which is kind of why it's nice that the Ironworks gear is like item level 130. That way you can just clear like almost all of the Heavensward leveling dungeons with Ironworks gear.
So the way they made it is that the prior high-end gear, the max stat gear that you can get, will always get you to about the 5 point of dungeons. So, like, let's take into account Storm's Blood. So you're going to Stormblood. If you have the fully augmented gear from Heavensward, then you can get all the way up until the level 65 dungeon before the gear from that dungeon is actually higher item level than what you're currently wearing. So
Ah,
it gets you through the first 3 main like story plot dungeons before you have to actually replace your gear.
is that why sometimes I would see you with like green gear rather than like blue gear as you're leveling?
Yep. Because that gear at that point is, even though it's 6 item levels higher than what I'm wearing, those stats mean a lot more. So if you like, specifically if we're going to talk about like gear and combat and everything like that, your weapon itself, if you find a weapon that has 1 weapon damage higher than the one that you're wearing, but the substats are crap, you're going to want to get that weapon, because that 1 weapon damage is a lot more than what all of your current substats that you have that you would end up losing from changing those substats.
I see. So it's always main stat first.
Exactly. Well, it's always so for the weapon, it's always main or it's weapon damage first
Mm-hmm.
because all of the classes are linked specifically. So any melee DPS, except ninja, is their main stat is going to be strength.
Yep. And
Ninja's gonna be dexterity.
which is why it has its
Uh
accessories are very pretty much the same as those with like the ranged classes.
exactly. It was the like a hybrid style job. So for ninja, you want to make sure, and any other class, you want to make sure that the weapon damage is first and foremost. So the main stats are always going to be the same for that. The armor, you're going to want to go for item level. As you're progressing, you want to go for item level mainly because you'll get more of the main stats, which is strength, dexterity, and so on. Um, so you want to get that overall. When you get to max level at the time, with 60, then you want to start focusing on tweaking what gear you get from either the tone vendor or from the raids to get the best in slot.
Yep.
Meaning that you'll pump your main stats always, but then your sub stats depending on the job that you're using.
Right. Yeah, that's actually a nice way to go through this discussion, which it does need some grinding here and there, which is actually going to lead into like my next part. Well, grinding for like crafting materials and currency and what have you not. For a game that is supposedly in the genre that is all about the grind, it's not as bad as compared to, I guess, compared to like my previous experience with like MMOs and what have you not. Like I was the other day or like one time because I was leveling like my crafters, and I think it was the leather worker that needed like Paisty skins for like the sky builders collectibles. I made an estimation that I needed 100 Paisty skins. So I was just grinding in like what's this? In Blue Fog, Camp Blue Fog. And it took me about like 30 minutes at most to get like the 100 Paisty skins that I needed. Which is which was much better than I expected, honestly. I was expecting like a full hour, if anything.
Well, I mean, yes, there's sometimes like, your luck's not there and the drop rate is horrible. But Square Enix built like the core principle of how they want to run this game is that it is not going to be a second job.
Yeah.
You can, it's not going to take you, too long to like gather what you need. There
Yep.
are other avenues that you can get that stuff. So like when you when you can get retainers. So you can give your retainers different jobs. So you
Right.
can give your retainers a miner job or a botanist job or a battle class job. And so if it's like, hey, I need to farm these skins so I can make the leather. Well, you can send your retainer if they're at that near the level of what that enemy is. You can send them out to get you those skins,
Right.
and they'll
For
bring a certain amount every 45 minutes to an hour.
Yeah. Although I and especially because I needed to use like a lot of like shards for to make the sky builders items that I needed. Even that was fairly quick. Like I wanted to be able to use retainers for admittedly, but eventually I was like, oh, this is actually fairly quick. And it's like eventually you just get into a flow of like farming the materials. And I am so
That's
glad
all.
that
That's also changed since Endwalker dropped.
yeah. And I am so glad that gatherers have sneak as a passive because man, it is so I found it so jarring that almost all the shards that I needed, they can be found just in the starting areas of like Ulda and Gridania. But then for whatever reason, the lightning shards are like all the way in Mordona. They're outside of Mordona and they're in the area that are close to the Morbles, and it's like what the fuck?
Yeah.
It's like
So they've taken a lot of time and care to kind of figure out how everything should work. Beforehand, they didn't have sneak. They didn't actually have sneak until Shadowbringers, if I recall.
Wow. Until Shadowbringers, man, that's pain. That
I believe it was it was either Stormblood or Shadowbringers that introduced sneak before you literally had to like be careful. Because sneak beforehand, all it did, it actually made you invisible and you walked like super slow.
Yeah, that's
But
a ninja class, basically. That's a ninja class skill.
kinda, yeah. But that's how gatherers used to be, where that was your only way of like getting past some enemies is by using their hide ability. Or ninja has hide, if I recall, and it was sneak for gatherers.
Yeah.
But you walked super slow, and you would have to use that when you went from node to node, so you didn't get like killed. Since they introduced flying in 2.0, you can just fly to the areas, and then they introduced that sneak ability for crafters that's innate and constantly on, unless you turn it off or accidentally walk into a fate and then it turns off.
Yep.
Oh
wait, Fate
but
turns
yeah,
it off?
if you are on a fate that is at your level, it will turn it off.
Okay. Oh, thank God! Thank God I was able to max out all of my gatherers first then, fairly easily. Which, yeah, actually, the one thing I noticed about leveling, especially for like the crafters and gatherers, like gatherers is especially the easiest compared to like crafters, because crafters does need some prep time in order to level them up quickly. And
Well,
one
there's a way around leveling crafters.
and one thing I did, sorry,
Go ahead.
you can. Do you want to continue or?
I was just saying that you can have like once you actually get the full paid version, somebody can actually craft the high quality items because they're not rare or untradeable, and then you can just do the leave quests and trade them in for like a ton of XP.
I see. But yeah, what's this? What was I about to say?
We were talking about the prep time for crafters.
Yeah. One thing I was noticing when I was one thing I'm so thankful for when like leveling gatherers up until like level 50 into Heavensward. When you start like the level 50 quest for in Heavensward, you're given like these survivor manuals, and they provide so much XP, and they're really good for like they're good up until like level 70. Or they're where like anything past that they're only half as effective, and they last for a long time. And it's like
2 hours.
yeah. And it's like I've been able to use that for like my botanist and like for Fisher, and then I eventually got them to. The nice thing is, I did the quests for both botanist and miner, so I was able to use those pretty. I was able to make some good use out of it, and I still have several to spare. Come for like what's this? Come for the complete once a complete edition is now available.
Also, there's a little hidden feature in the game that not a lot of people notice. But when you're leveling up, so like let's say you get let's say Heavensward was the
cap,
the most recent expansion.
Mm-hmm.
You got to drop to 60.
Yeah, you're
If
talking about the
if you
I'm sorry to
yeah,
interrupt.
the
You're
armory
talking
XP.
about, yeah, the armory bonus XP. Yeah, I'm so
Yep.
glad that's a thing because it makes leveling.
That also
it makes
affects crafters and gatherers.
Oh, I didn't really notice that, but yeah, it makes sense now.
Hence the reason why it's easy. Like when an expansion drops, it's always a good idea to just get one character to max level, and then start leveling up all of the other any of the other jobs that you might have left behind or are still in the process of leveling.
And you can basically do through like MSQs. Speaking of, I actually have plans to. What's this? I actually have plans to play as a Gunbreaker this once I can buy the what's this complete edition. Because then, it's like I do want to try out the Gunbreaker. It's already going to be level 60, so it'll be able to play Stormblood content. And then because I'm a tank, I don't really have to wait long in queues. So it's like it allows me to complete the story really fast. Hopefully.
Yeah, there's a ton of stuff in the game that a lot of people don't know. That's even though they've been playing for like over a year. No,
Yeah,
it's
when you're
there's
playing
a
it,
lot there's a lot of stuff.
I mean, there, like, there's a lot of stuff. Yeah, there's also a lot of stuff I've probably missed out through like my what's this 1 month run in the game almost, or practically near 2, because I started near the end of November. So I'm about to
This
be.
this Gregorius, here's one thing I can say. I've been playing since 1.0 alpha and beta. I've seen people that started playing during Heavensward. And just recently I ran the main scenario roulette doing Castor Meridian. And I I told the party about specific mechanics that I found out over time. And they're like, I've never known about this. So in Castor Meridian, when you get to the point that Sid is destroying one of the generators, and it spawns that giant golem or the giant like golem monster you have to fight.
Yeah.
If you pull the golem monster to where Sid is at and he's shooting at the tower, his splash damage from the AoE actually damages the giant.
I
People weren't
didn't
aware
know
of that.
that. Yeah, I didn't know
And
that.
this person's like, I've been playing since like 2.5 and I did not know that. They're like, this is new. And then at the very end, right after you turn off the 2 alarms and you the final boss of the dungeon spawns, and you're supposed to, or before the final boss spawns, and you have to use the mortars to destroy the ship to break the last shield generator.
Yeah.
Multiple people can actually click the same mortar and shoot it multiple times at the same time, and people didn't know about that.
Oh my lord, I didn't know.
So when
Wow.
I said that, we had just one tank invuln and pull the 2 giants that spawn,
And then
and
all
then
the DPS just used it. Just
yep,
used
the
the
7
thing.
party members just hit one, and it literally destroyed it in like one shot.
Was it? Does it have to be 7? I thought it was like only.
It's about it's like 7 or 10, and it's like literally like dropped in like a split second. So yeah, there's a lot of things that even veteran players like don't know.
Yeah, the only thing I was honestly aware of, like the Castle Meridian fight, is you have when the time that by the time that Sid opens the door, you have to draw in all the mobs, because like he's gonna, for whatever fucking reason, he's just gonna end up fighting. It's like you just draw him in that way, he doesn't waste time, and it's like, okay, he's there fast. And
But yeah, there's like I said, there's just a lot of things that even like legacy players like are still learning, like me.
I'm not surprised that people, considering how people just blitz Castrum and Prey, I'm not surprised that people don't know this stuff about the Stew dungeons. Actually, yeah, speaking of blitzing Prey, I have been getting into that mentality where you basically just speed run the whole thing up until like and only fight when you need to up until like the first boss. Well, the first and second boss, you basically blitz through like the creeps, because you don't really need to fight them for the most part. At first, that upset me a little bit, because like it's like, guys, you left me behind. And then
Yeah,
eventually,
that's why they made it so that you can no longer skip the cutscenes because people were being left behind and they were kind of like, where the hell do I go next?
yeah,
And this was before they added the whole feature
shortcuts.
where no, well, not the shortcuts, is where you get drawn into the actual fight.
Ah,
If the 15-second timer closed off, you were stuck out of the fight
yeah,
for good.
I remember that. I know that, because that happened to me a couple of times. But it's like, yeah, eventually you learn how to get into. You're able to just get into those grooves and follow it up.
Yeah, it's just they still haven't released the skipping of the cutscenes, so most people that go there just literally still blitz it, and like, you know, they're stuck watching the cutscenes, but then they just either go do something else, like watch some anime on the side, or you know, like play another game
Yeah,
on like another monitor or something like that.
yeah, or in my case, the other day I was just taking. I just needed to take the leak real quick.
Well, it's like what my friend does when he's playing that, he literally just sits there and plays like either mobile games and like does his like daily tasks on them while he's waiting for the Netflix and chills to be done.
Yep. But yeah, actually, also another thing about if I just want to go back about it because I never really mentioned it. Rather 2 months, new players or WoW refugee teaching you, and I just listening. I'm just there for such Oh yeah, I love that line. Such devastation. It was not my intention.
One of the best lines.
That one's always funny. It's like,
And
well,
it's funny. It's funny because the voice act, if I recall, the voice actor for Gaius is also Joseph Joestar
wait,
from JoJo.
which one? Part 2 or part 3?
Old, all like
Oh,
old Joestar.
Old Joestar. Okay. Because if that was like part 2, that would be funny. Because I found out there's a because the other day I found out like the voice actor for Joseph in part 2 was the same voice actor for Eugene in Hey Arnold.
Wow.
Yeah, it's like bad. But another thing I kind of wanted to mention before, like, what's this? If because I forgot to mention this about grinding, especially for materials. It, I'm so glad that there are resources like Gamer Escape because it's like it's so useful in like just knowing where to get the items, and it's like okay, all I have to do is just repeat this, just kill these guys again, and it's like oh, I have everything that I needed. Guys is voiced by Richard Epcar. Yeah, let me actually look him up real quick. Yeah.
I'm trying to remember who. I think was it him that also did Bobo Bobo Bobo? I can't remember. I
Let's
was looking
see.
it up earlier today with some friends. I just can't remember. Like my brain is dead from doing rating on Savage today.
Right. Yeah, he's the main character of Bo 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 Bo. God,
Yeah,
this is so hard to read.
yeah. That anime was weird. Bobo 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 Bobo.
Anyway, at least for
He
ARR, I
he
mean,
has he has prehensile nose hairs, and that's how he fights.
yeah, at least for ARR. I mean, I haven't. I've still yet to play Stormblood. Does he come back in a Stormblood or whatever? Because he died. I mean, he dies in ARR, right?
Not gonna say. Just continue playing.
Okay. But yeah, actually. And then I think one of the hurdles I felt with like leveling, especially for like the DPS, because of like their queues, it just felt way too long, and I was like, there must be something else that I can do to bypass queues. So I was trying to do like Palace of the Dead. I have not reached up to like level floor 50, and then I've so far I have actually unlocked command missions, and I was able to use them to reach like level 30. I haven't really used them much past level 30 because I still need to level up my squadron more. Because like
I
only a few of them actually are like level 32.
I stopped using that feature in the game because I tried using them to like level up and unlocks like extra stuff in the game, but the AI on them is so dumb.
Yeah.
To the
Yeah.
point where if you try to do which one was it? The one with the tonberries at the end.
Oh, you mean the I think it's Amadapur Keep?
No, I
Or
don't think it's.
what Waterway Palace. It must be Waterway Palace if I remember.
It's. I can't remember the name of the dungeon right now. But it has the tonberries at the end. If you have that
There,
team
the
with you,
Wanderer's Palace. Sorry, I just had to look it up
okay,
right now. It's the Wanderer's Palace.
okay.
I remember that because I was specifically leveling the Scholar. Scholar was like one of the recent classes that I got to level 60. So yeah, they have a quest where it involves
Yeah.
like you fighting inside the Wanderer's Palace a bit.
So if you actually do the Wanderer's Palace with that group, with the command group, the tank is so dumb to the point where he'll go and grab all of the large tonberries and get one-shotted.
Yeah.
There's no way. And one of the things is like people were posting it on Reddit, like when it was
Honestly,
like
I'm not
at that point.
confident. I'm not confident in grinding like command missions past level 40 because it's like the dungeons a bit past level 40. See, I feel like at least my impression is they're a bit more complicated than AI can handle. Like say, 44 is a big one, for example, where you have to, you know how like in the first fight you have to stay in the crystal area. I am not confident that the AI is capable of being aware of that.
Oh, the AI has been improved. Not on that specifically. I don't know if they've gone back and touched that, but starting in Shadowbringers, you can actually do all of the main story dungeons with trust characters. So you can actually do like the entire dungeon with AI characters, and they actually are fairly competent in dodging AoEs and like markers and things like that.
All the level dungeons, all the main dungeons, even those like what's this? Even before Shadowbringers.
What about them?
Like can you use trusts in dungeons
No.
before? Okay.
Only Shadowbringers and Endwalker are the only two that currently have it. They might expand it to the other dungeons, but currently it's just those. And that, if you look at my card on the stream there, that's how I got all of those jobs to level 90. Is solely just doing it on trusts.
Especially for like the DPS, I guess.
Yeah, because it's insta queue. I don't have to worry wait in line or anything like that. But I did it with trusts because since they did a lot of job changes and how the jobs actually play, I was going in blind for like 90% of the jobs. Bard was my main. That's the only one that I like focused on learning really quickly. But since I was kind of relearning all of those jobs, I just focused on just those specific, just doing it with trust and took my time and learned the jobs. But
yeah,
I was able to get.
Mm-hmm. Honestly, I'm thinking my plan is Gunbreaker will be the class that I use once if I can buy the complete edition. Once I buy the complete edition, Gunbreaker will be the class that I use to go through main story quests, and then I'll be leveling my monk through like roulettes. I feel like that will be like the best way for me to at least especially level up monk, and especially get him to like at least level 70. That way I can level up monk through like trust.
You'll need to be level 71 if you're going to be doing trust. Because all of the dungeons start at odd levels.
Yeah, I mean that's fair enough, but that's easy anyway. With like that's easy anyway with roulettes. Or I feel confident it'll be easy enough with roulettes, especially since for leveling, I will finally be able to also use normal raids as well. Because right now, I only use the normal raid roulettes in order to get poetics for gear.
So pretty much when you get to level 70, your leveling experience is going to be you're going to do leveling roulette. You're going to do the trials, the 50, 60, 70, 80, which is what it's called right now. Alliance raid, normal raid, and if you have the stomach to sit there and watch Netflix, the main story one.
Yeah, I mean, I still do the MSQ roulettes because like it's especially useful for poetics. That's the one thing I really like about the the main scenario. Even if it takes long, they provide a decent amount of XP and they give a ton of poetics. Like
300 poetics, and if somebody's brand new for the first time, you also get another 100.
And it's not just that. Even clearing some fights, you already get you get the poetics from the dungeons themselves. Like Castrum, for example, by the time you end Castrum, you're also given an additional 200. So in one run, that's like 500 poetics.
Yep.
And yeah, that's on top of like the new player bonuses as well.
And yes, Bard, who's currently one of the strongest, or it's the strongest range DPS, physical DPS in the game.
I felt that a little bit because I was leveling Machinist. As much as I like the burst damage to some extent, it still does feel a little bit slow, especially compared to like Archer, where they have two dots, and then they
Well,
even like
Machinist is stronger, but when it comes to like support and everything like that, Bard has more kit to that is more useful. So literally, when it comes to like right now, Savage groups, nobody's using Machinist and nobody's using Dancer. They're
right.
using a Bard as their range Fizz, and then either Reapers for their melee DPS or Monks.
Yeah. Oh, that sounds like I'm gonna have a ball then. Especially as a monk main, because I love how a monk fights. And it's one of the reasons why I want to play Gunbreaker rather than like any other tank when I'm going through MSQs. Because like I was, even though I don't really like the Gunblade as a weapon, it's a huge step up from 8. I still think it's a little bit of a weird weapon in terms of how it's designed. But for the most part, I was reading the job guide and I was like reading like how the rotations work a little bit. I was like, this might be a place. This might be a class whose playstyle I might just like.
Gunbreaker's great. Currently, right now, when it comes to the tank parts, Warrior and Dark Knight are the two highest damaging ones, but Warrior has much better damage and much better sustainability, like survivability,
I actually
than Dark
remember.
Knight.
I actually remember seeing this one meme about Warrior, where it's like the healers. I want to be TVS, and the Warrior's like, "You go, girl." And then it's like
Yeah.
instead of like being blue, the Warrior's is colored green.
Yep, a green DPS, kind of like how a White Mage used to be during Shadowbringers. White Mage was actually the highest healer DPS, so in parties, White Mage is mainly DPS'd.
Yeah, and then because it doesn't really matter for that to them because they have burst heals anyway. Am I right?
White Mage has a less off global cooldown heals than well at the time Astro and Scholar did, but
Mm,
their main like hard cast heals were like insane.
I see. But yeah, I do like Astrologian as a healer because it's like I just pop the regens, and then for the most part, I'm going to be fine. And I only need to use them when I only need to heal when absolutely necessary. But otherwise, I'm just chilling. I'm just doing DPS, and then it's like, oh, I need mana. Pop a card, draw a card. I actually don't really care about like the undraw or like the redraw. Eventually, I will. There will come a point where I might have to. But for the most part, I'm really just popping it for the mana regen. And then it's like, oh, now I apply the huge party buff, the one with like where depending on what symbols you get.
Glare Mage, yes, that's what White Mage was.
Glare mage.
And Red Mage is amazing. Like they've really made Red Mage like way too strong, like in a good way.
It's
Because
actually
now they have a shield for the party for magic defense, and
wow.
they're also one of the best
Does it stack
DPSs
with like
because
other defense
yes,
buffs? Nice.
yeah.
Actually, not speaking of red mage, one of the hype parts in like leading into Stormblood was when was when Alice revealed that she was a red mage. It's like, oh shit. It was like she
Yeah, that was a really good scene because nobody was expecting it.
it's like Alpha No was always more interested in books. I, on the other hand, was interested in the art of the blade. And it's like she draws up the sword from her book, and it's like, shit. Like that'll always be so cool. At first, I thought she was a paladin because I didn't really know what red mages looked like at the time. But then it's like I looked into it. It's like, oh, she's a red mage, and it makes sense now, especially in that fight where she needed to cast a spell anyway. Because like sure, paladins have like spells, but it's not particularly offensive oriented.
They have paladins. The paladins have two or three spells that they can cast, and that's the only thing that they use their MP for. One's called Clemency, which most
Heals,
of the people I know most no Clemency is a heal.
yeah, that one heals,
So
and
it's
then
a
it's like if you
it,
heal a party member, you get half of it.
yeah. Then the other two are Holy Circle, and then what was the single target? So Holy Circle is the AoE, and then there's God, I can't remember the single target one now, but it's the same thing. So it's either a single target a holy spell or an AoE target holy spell.
Yeah.
Oh wow! One of the rare fates was spawning in Amar or Ilmeg, and I got gold on it, so I got the achievement.
Huh, nice. The initial acceleration change threw me off when I tried it out after Endwalker dropped, I'll admit. What changed to acceleration? Rushman, can you clarify that a bit? Because I'm a bit lost.
Let's see, double check here real quick. Oh, so acceleration before used to lower your it lowered the cast time of all of your spells, but what it ended up doing is when you used it, it lowered your healing output.
I see.
But it gave you like pretty much insta cast. Now they made it so that it's doesn't lower your healing spell, your healing cast, or your healing potency, and it's just a flat like speed increase
I see.
against it.
I see.
So those changes are kind of good because now you can like nuke nonstop, and if you have to switch on the fly to healing, you won't be gimped.
Yeah. Actually, let's go back a little bit to leveling because I haven't really talked much about like the Disciples of War and Disciples of Magic. Because like,
Oh, sorry, acceleration is the red mage one.
yeah, okay,
Sorry.
okay. It used to force proc with Ver Thunder and Ver Arrow for 3 casts. Okay.
Now it's just a single cast, but you have multiple stacks of it.
Nice.
Like I believe you can get like 2 or 3 by level 90.
I see. You know, I kind of wish that Perfect Balance for Monk had like 3 stacks instead of 2. But it's like, you know what? Fine. I understand why. I
Well,
understand.
perfect balance for monk is used to be on a second cooldown. So like when you activated, you had I think it was like 10 seconds to do all of your attacks.
Yeah. But it's really honestly I really do like Perfect Balance because it's like it really does a lot. It allows me to be creative while still farming out for damage. Like, you know, one of the things that you know my Perfect Balance flow my Perfect Balance rotation so far. So it's like I tend to do if I can get Perfect Balance and I don't have Disciplined Fist yet, I do Twin Snake, I do Perfect Balance and then Twin Snake, I do Demolish, and then Dragon Kick, and then I do Solar Strike, and then pop another Perfect Balance, and then I do Boot Shine, Dragon Kick, Boot Shine to get most of the damage because, well, I'm still
Yeah,
level
that's
60,
that's
so I don't
exactly
have.
how you.
Yeah, I'm level 60, and I don't have the Brotherhood of Fire and Anatman and whatnot.
So you said you wanted to go back to talking about leveling.
Yeah. So thankfully, even with like even if especially for like DPS, even if it's a little bit slow, well, at least for the base classes, they one of the biggest advantages that the base classes have is the hunting logs. The hunting logs are so useful, especially for like the DPS base classes, because it's like, oh, while you're waiting for Q, I can do something else, and that's something I've been doing, especially with like the bard. While I'm waiting for like Q, I'm just doing I finished the hunting logs recently, and I plan to do the same with like Lancer and with Dragoon and Ninja, especially since now they're both level 32. Oh, hello, Andre. I'm just talking about like my experience. God, bot. Oh no, why are you like this? How do I?
You should be able to just right click on the chat.
There you go.
I think.
Well, I got it. I got rid of it. No, I was like, I just wanted to be. I just wanted some fairly wholesome SFW content. SFW content, and then it's like somebody promotes porn, and it's like, what the fuck? uh, where was I? Yeah, the hunting logs. The hunting logs are like really great for like, especially for the DPS classes, because that's mostly where I've been using them so far. I actually forgot to use like the to grind the hunting logs as a paladin, because after like level 15, I kind of just jumped straight into like duties, and I didn't, and because I'm a tank, I didn't really need to queue.
Hunting logs were great, but at the when they introduced Palace of the Dead, that's literally the fastest way to level up anything from when you can walk into Palace of the Dead up until level 60.
Yeah, actually,
Um,
let's talk a bit about Palace of the Dead. So, the one of the things I found out the hard way was you still need the soul stone in order to get like the class skills. So like if you went in as like an archer, you're only going to get all of the archer skills. You have to reset the run
yes,
in order to get the bard. So
yes. But the reason some people used to use just the regular classes was before they made changes to the class skills. So back in the day, whenever you were leveling up, um, sometimes like a warrior wouldn't actually equip the warrior soulstone because you could then at that point equip like a healing spell,
oh,
or like a paladin wouldn't actually use it because they could actually equip cure.
I
So since they made the changes and everything like that, that got removed. Because it also affected PvP because some paladins would actually unequip it and then would go around with like stone skin in
mhm,
PvP,
right,
and it would just break the game for a lot of people.
right. And then I'm so glad that brand new ring is a thing. It's a little bit unfortunate that for me right now it's the only leveling item I have. The most frustrating thing I found so far, because there was a time where I was like reading through leveling guides. There's I've never I just like threw a rock. You can throw a rock into the ocean of like leveling guides, and you're almost always bound to like to find a guide that will say, "Oh hey, you should be try." For this guide, I was using the rings of the Minfinius earrings, which you get by pre-ordering. What was it? Shadowbringers or Endwalker? And I was like,
And
wow,
Walker.
yeah. And it's like, wow, thanks, very useful, very useful guide.
Well, you also got to take into consideration that if you let's say you have the ring and the earring with you, and you do like leveling roulette,
Oh
and you
yeah,
get into a dungeon that's below level 30,
yep,
you can equip the brand new ring and get the bonus XP of both the brand new ring and the earring.
yep. Like honestly, it's something I need to do more if I get whenever I get like a if by chance I do get into like a low level dungeon, just equip the brand new ring and it's like, oh, I'm all set.
It's not much XP that you're getting because it's just the XP from the bosses, but
I mean, it
before
adds up.
yeah, it adds up. So it does help a little bit.
The one thing that
Now,
is technically that is I guess technically feasible for me, but I'm not exactly sure how it works. I understand the mechanics of getting the item is the friendship bracelet. Although it's only up to like level 25, but it's still enough. It's still
that
decent.
that that is, you can only get that by called recruit a friend.
Yeah.
So it's a code that you can generate from Mog Station, and you give it to somebody, and if they join the game brand new, as in like they're still on their 30-day free trial from purchasing the game, then once their 30-day trial is over, um they will get the friendship headpiece, and they will also get like free teleport tickets and things like that. And if they end up leveling for like higher or like staying for more months, then they get silver feathers that they can trade in for like gear, and you get gold feathers that you can trade for like specific rare mounts that are only available from that.
I see. I'll have to ask you again how that works once I can. Should I actually? Well, when they allow players to make new accounts and like also buy the complete edition.
Oh, I remember that, Andre. When people, when Ninja actually had an ability that would regenerate a party member's TP.
What was TP? I don't remember that. You mean the
T-
teleport?
no, TP was called technique points. That was your resource for doing your weapon skills.
Ah,
So you could not fight if you ran out of TP. So
right.
bards and ninjas had an ability that allowed, like bards had an AOE one that would regen TP, and ninjas had a direct target one that they could give TP back.
When did
And
they
one of the
get rid of?
biggest thing,
When did they get
they
rid
got
of
rid
that?
of that in Stormblood.
Oh,
And one of the things that was also in the game is if you used sprint would eat 100% of your TP. So when you were doing
why?
mechanics, and fights, you had to sprint, you would completely lose the ability to do like any attacks.
That's
So that's where bards
pain.
came in, ninjas came in, and then certain classes actually had like a resource, like an ability that they can spend, and it would give them a chunk of their TP back, but not all of it.
Bruh.
So so if you
Bruh.
were a monk with your grease lightning stacks and you were full skill speed, you would end up running out of TP no matter what.
Yeah, I'm so glad I didn't. I think, yeah, I got in near the end of Shadowbringers, basically. I was on the free trial when it was near the end of Shadowbringers, and then Endwalker came out. Which I still had some of the belts at the time, so I'm glad that I got rid of it, because it's just use of space. I think I played on Final Fantasy XIV on and off until Shadowbringers, where I got to playing it more seriously. Actually, speaking of seriously, what am I at this rate? Would I be considered serious for how much progress I've been making, or how much progress I intend to make?
I mean, you're trying to get everything maxed out to level 60 that you
Yeah,
can unlock, so that is a little bit of you know,
that is
being
true.
hardcore on it.
Yeah, that is true. That is true.
I mean, you're enjoying the game. That's the thing about it. It's like the game. Yoshi P does not want you to spend your life playing the game. He wants you to like stop when you're bored and go play something else. But if you get into the game and you really enjoy it, then
Like, yeah,
keep going.
yeah. I'm really, what's this? Because I think one of the ideas behind it was a lot of the classes use the same gear, especially when leveling. So all of the Disciples of War, especially the melee DPS and range DPS, they practically have the same gear. So I figured I might as well just level them all up first. That way, all that's left are like the Poetics gear, especially the level 60 Poetics gear, and then the only ones that'll be needing level 50 gear are the Samurai and Red Mage. And speaking of, I guess I'll be leveling those up first through roulettes while I play MSQ with Gunbreaker. Because those are the only ones that will be like level 50 by the time I get the complete edition. And then, let's see.
Ooh, that was close. I'm doing a fate, and you have to protect this bird character that's in here, and there was no tanks, and he had hate cemented on him for so long that like he dropped down to like 25% health before
Yeah,
I was able to take the boss off of him.
yeah, that's pain. And actually, yeah. Uh I guess how do I go off about this? Because yeah, that's basically my plan from here on out throughout the free trial. Just get all the characters to 60, and then try to get the poetic gear for almost all for all the classes that I will need, and hopefully by the end of it, all my characters will have the Shire Poetics gear, and then the only ones that'll be needing level 50 Poetics gear are like the what's this? Are Red Mage and Samurai. Although, if there's one thing I wanted to talk a bit about last, how long have we been here? How long has the stream been going on? Oh, an hour and a
Uh,
half.
yeah.
If there's one last thing I want to talk about, it's like, what's going to happen from the free trial to the free trial after Endwalker? Because that's where I'm curious. I feel like I feel like the first thing that's going to happen is when the new expansion drops, it's still just going to be the same up until like level 60 all the way until like Heavensward. Because this will really be the first time where they're dealing with more than like 2 expansions.
I have a feeling that when 7.0 comes out, they're going to expand the free trial to include not Shadowbringers,
Stormblood.
Stormblood.
Because that's actually something I would want. Because personally, I feel like 3 expansion packs in a span of 30 days, especially once you buy the complete edition, that is more than manageable. Especially if you get like if you're quick in your, if you choose like a class that's like quick with Qs. Because the only thing that's going to be slowing you down in terms of like main storyline, it's just going to be like the Qs from the duties. That's it. Otherwise, having to deal with the MSQ for 3 expansions is fairly manageable. Like I finished MSQ in less than a month. And the only time I'm really playing I'm playing as long is because, well, I'm leveling everything else. And it's like I haven't really leveled everything up until level 60, so there's that. But yeah, you're convinced that what's this? Because that's something I want to. I want them to expand the free trial up until like Stormblood. But you're convinced that they'll do that?
I have a feeling that they will when 7.0 drops.
Mm. I Yeah, because that one is I really do feel like that they might just not expand it first just to see how feasible it is.
Yeah, Heavensward is a fantastic expansion. Like, and I'm still sad that the voice actor for Count Edmund just recently passed away.
Ah, that feels bad. Is he?
The other thing is like you might notice after Heavensward, Yugiri's voice actor changes when you get to Stormblood.
Yeah.
That's because like Yugiri's original voice actress was murdered along with her 2 children.
Ah, shit, that's brutal.
Yeah, like we got the news of that, and I was like fucking like pissed.
That's damn, that's brutal.
Like I like Yugiri's voice actress was just a phenomenal like voice actress and like cut on her prime.
And I feel bad. I'm joking with my friends about 7.0. It's multiverse where we will meet Sylvanas.
No.
Unt- Until Endwalker, Heavensward was my favorite expansion, Laval. I mean,
I loved Shadowbringers, but yeah, Ed Walker just trumps everything.
yeah, so far I really do like Heavensward. It really does feel like a step up in terms of story from like ARR. Because I felt like not I one of the things I felt like, because it was really focused on like the world building, not many characters get to shine. And the only characters you really end up feeling like who get to shine are whatever scion you meet, depending on where you start. So if it's Ulda, it's going to be Thancred. If it's like Limsa Lominsa, it's going to be Ishtola. And then if it's Gridania, it's going to be Papalimo and Ida. Otherwise, it's not really much. And if I remember correctly, all legacy players started out in Ul'dah, right?
No.
Oh,
They started in whatever main story or main area that they originally started in 1.0.
okay. And in your case, it was Ul'dah.
Yes, Ulda was my main hub that I started in 1.0.
Okay, so that's actually neat. It also does. Legacy players also do get affected where they start.
Yes. We get affected by the job that we're at, that we initially set. So, since I started as monk in 1.0, it was Ulda.
Mm-hmm. uh, but yeah, I get. Well, there isn't really much I kind of want to bring up at this point, but honestly, I've been having a blast with Final Fantasy XIV so far, and I will grind. I'm very convinced in trying to grind everything to 60, and hope. And I actually don't think I'll buy the complete edition just yet. I really want to get everything to 60 first before I buy the complete edition, because right, it's really, since it's unlimited playtime, I might as well just make the most of it. Actually, nah,
Yeah.
I think I'll only buy the complete edition once I finish the Bahamut coils. I'll see how it goes. But I do want to get everything to 60 first. That way, everything is less of a chore when it comes to leveling. For me, and
Gregorius.
for me,
Yeah.
Endwalker, it's great desserts, but I like the main dish, main course, which ARR through Stormblood. I'm actually really excited in doing Stormblood because I really want to see how the story goes from like traveling through two nations.
It's actually really well paced because you start off going through some of the areas of Alamigo,
Mm-hmm.
and then it just throws you into the east, and then you come back to Alamigo.
I see. That's actually that's actually nice, especially since like Alamigo is teased to be like the main focus, and then Doma is like teased as like a second one, especially since in ARR they bring it up earlier that what's this, that it was put down by like what's this, by Garlean. And yeah, Rushman, Limza, it's Marauder Arcanist, Olda Gladiator Monk Thaumaturge, and then Gridania, it's Lancer Archer and Conjurer.
Yep.
People hate
The job.
Stormblood, but not for me. I guess I'll see what my opinions are of it when I go through it. But it's like, I don't know. I'm very excited. Especially I want to see what how Lisa's character is going to be like now that she gets to be her own now that she's in a situation where she has to be her own person.
Well, there's a reason why a lot of people hated Stormblood, and it was mainly because the launch of the game wasn't really
Good.
handled well due to how many people like joined the game.
Mm-hmm.
And there's the memes out there about Robon Extreme because people couldn't get into that mission to do it because of the server congestion. But honestly, like Shadow or Stormblood did a lot of good things in how it progressed the story and how they built the world even more. And it shows because they used all of that in Shadowbringers and then in Endwalker. Like Endwalker has a lot of things that were left open in 2.0 and 3.0, and they finally have like resolution to it.
I'm excited for like what's this, the Omega raids, because I was sharing the I think I was sharing this video in your server earlier. It's mostly about fighting games, and I know you don't play them, but it's like the context was because there's this guy I follow, Sejam. He was learning 9 from Blaze Blue, and she's all about managing resources and what have you not. And it was like, and people were like, you know, I'd like to try her out, but it's like managing resources are intimidated. And he's like, it's not that bad because it's just like any game. You start off small and then you eventually expand. That's how I played. That's how I did it as like a healer. And then what's this? He was kind of joking about like, oh, you guys can handle so many gauges in like Final Fantasy 14, and it's like you're somehow you're somehow like perplexed in a fighting game. And then this one friend in another server I'm in, he mentions how in the Omega raids for like Final Fantasy, people were very divided towards the Omega raids because apparently there was like this one fight where you had to do like the proper, you had to do math, like what is a prime number, what is 2 plus 2, otherwise you're either gonna die or you need to restore your HP.
Oh, you're talking. That's the Alliance raid. Okay, so that's not Omega.
Ah, okay.
That's actually in the Evilise raids.
I
There's
see.
there's a boss that literally makes you do math.
It- it's like that's actually funny. It's like, were people actually really stressed out by that, or is that like the Savage Alliance raids?
No,
If there's something like that.
no, just people normal. There's just people don't know math. I mean, I just recently one of the dungeons in Endwalker, which is the Tower of Babel. The first boss uses magnet mechanics, and people still don't know how to magnet, and they get hit with AOE's because of it. I'm like, if it's opposite, get the hell away from. If you have a different like marker than the boss, so if you have a minus and the boss has a plus, get away from him because he's going to pull you in. If you have the same marker as the boss, get near him because he's going to push you away. It's how magnets, same ones repel each other, opposite ones attract, and people still die to it.
In my defense, I thought my second Aurum Veil run was bad. It was like, in my defense, at least it was like, oh, the debuffs, or like the poison stacks wherever were placed in the way that I wasn't really paying attention to the screen, so I fixed that, and it's like that's not much of a problem for me these days. And it's like, oh, the Aurum Veil run is just you eat the fruit at 2 stack, and then it's just you chill.
I mean, Gregorius, it's okay because English language. I'm born here in the well, I wasn't born in the United States. Well, technically, I was born in Puerto Rico.
Yeah.
So Spanish is my first language. English is my secondary language, but I speak English mostly and near perfectly. And I still don't understand half of English.
Yeah, yeah, it's fine. English is weird sometimes. It's like, what, like, it's especially with like pronunciation, because it can be inconsistent from time to time.
Oh, it's 100% inconsistent.
Yeah, but yeah, that one with the math thing was really funny. And I was sharing that story in like another server, especially a fighting game server I'm in, and it's like this one guy I know who plays like who does play Final Fantasy XIV. It's like, yep, that that fight was where I just remembered what the prime number was. It's like, okay, that's the one where I really remember what prime numbers are.
Just a heads up, 5 and 7 are considered prime numbers.
I was like, oh, 11, 13, 17. What's the next one? 19. And then
Final Fantasy is just secretly teaching you how to do math.
Ah, but where is I? I was a bit sidetracked. Do you have any closing thoughts for the stream, or you want to introduce yourself a little bit more?
Well, going with what Gregorius just spoke, Urianger's voice, speaking, yes, it's very, very confusing. But if you're, I would not skip the cutscene in Walker at the very end. I still cry to that cutscene.
Yeah, I mean, I like Urianger for the most part. Uh, I was actually surprised at like how he he did the things that he did in Heaven through like ARR to Heavensward, and how that was built up. It was actually pulled off really well.
He's
And,
a very well created character.
hmm,
It's just his English, like he literally speaks in like Shakespearean.
yeah, he's the most Shakespearean out of all the cast. Like, sure,
Yeah,
everyone else does.
Elizabethan English.
Yeah, it's like, yeah, sure, everyone does speak ye old English to some extent, but it's like not as much as Urianger. Hmm.
Though Urianger speaking is not as bad as what's his name from Limsa Lominsa and the Drowning Wench, the proprietor there. So like in
Ah, I
yeah,
don't really.
he speaks pirate, and that's just like half the time I'm like, what? Like you don't hear him actually speaking, but the text is all like piratey text,
Yeah,
and I'm like half the time I'm like,
a lot of
yeah,
them
I don't
in
know.
Limsa, are like that, and I just assume that their accent is like British Mostly because it's like it's the only one that kind of clicks in my head, and also it's funny. You know that meme?
Yeah, Batteron.
It's like you know that meme where like do you do all people think that English the people speak like this? I was like, that's the meme that was running through my head through out like all the dialogue in Limsa Luminsa. It's like, yep, this fits. This somehow fits. But yeah, what's this? Maybe you want to what's this? Intro to as a closing off. Maybe you want to talk a bit more about like Final Fantasy, or like you want to introduce yourself a little bit because you do have like a gaming channel, right?
I do have my gaming Twitter and my my gaming stripes channel, but I haven't really actively like used it recently, so I need to go back and actually like open up my Discord and everything like that even more. But it's yeah, I'm still planning on stuff, but I've been playing 14 since alpha beta stages. Um, when it was bad. I stopped playing shortly after like they announced that the game was a failure. And then when Yoshi P took over, I came back to the game and started playing it more.
What got you to come back because of Yoshi? What specifically? That one I'm
Um,
actually curious.
when when I saw that they were adding actual jobs, so that they actually had like Dragoon, Monk, Black Mage, and so on, that's pretty much what got me back into the game. So
Ah,
once they actually added the job system and everything like that, I was like, okay, I need to get back in and see what other changes are coming. And I'm glad I did.
nice.
I was not let down.
And you've been playing ever since. Wow.
I've been playing ever since. So they stopped 1.0. Like when they knocked down 1.0, there was about a 8 month or so time frame between 2.0's launch. So I then play from there. Um, but since 2.0 has launched, I have not stopped my subscription for the game.
Speaking of
So
Yoshi
since
P, I wish DQX. I guess Dragon Quest X has that
yeah,
never been
Dragon
out in
Quest
the
X.
West?
Nope, it all came out in Japan and it's on PC and was originally on the Wii. And then it's just currently on PC in Japan. And Yoshi P was like worked on it.
I see. But
Yeah,
okay, it's
I've
a bit weird
never
that it's a bit weird that Dragon Quest 11 is they released Dragon Quest 11 in the West, but they didn't release Dragon Quest 10. It's like okay,
it's an MMO. So
okay. That,
Dragon Quest X is solely an MMO, so that's why it wasn't released here because Dragon Quest wasn't as popular as Final Fantasy
I see.
is. So Dragon Quest in Japan is a holy grail.
Yeah,
In Japan, anytime a Dragon Quest game comes out, companies close.
right.
Like literally, it's a holiday because of how popular the game is and how much it's brought to the country.
It makes me
Final Fantasy, on the other hand, isn't as much there, but it's opposite here. Dragon Quest is not as popular as Final Fantasy is on the West.
it actually makes me think of like Virtua Fighter because it's like in the case of Virtua Fighter, it's not super popular in outside of Japan, but in Japan, I've heard stories of like how the cabs of for Virtua Fighter always have people, even when especially now, even when like the game is old, when Virtua Fighter 5 is super old.
Yeah, I've never lapsed my subscription on 14. Like
Oh.
I've been active since the beginning of 2.0, and like I'll support the game. Yoshi P hasn't shown me any other reason why not to.
And I
They listen
guess
to their
yeah, and I was looking through like the subscription rates. They're actually quite. I'm still trying to confirm how like some of them work, because if I'm reading correctly, if I read it correctly, there was one where it's like you pay $12 for 180 days. Tw-
well, it's if you buy it in bulk.
yeah,
Now, it's not $12. It's it would be
$12
so it
a
would be
month for 180
$12 a
gigabytes.
month. So it would be $12 a month if you buy the bulk and if you pay for like the 6 months or so on.
I see.
I'm already rewarded because I'm a legacy player. So for me, because I got the legacy status, what they ended up giving the legacy players is we got the limited edition chocobo that nobody else can get but legacy players. We get the tattoo on our character's body that tells us we're a meteor survivor. Um, there was a Gobu that was only available in 1.0. And for the life of the game, our subscription cost is $9.99 a month.
Nice.
Um, and our $9.99 a month subscription is the same as the $14.99 subscription that allows you to make up to 8 characters per server.
Wow.
So we get the ultimate, account version of it for $9.99 a month, and if we buy in bulk, we get an even bigger discount. So because of that discount for myself, I'm like, okay, they gave me the discount, for the life of the game. It's a lot cheaper for me to buy in bulk. And then at that point, I just bought extra retainers as a way to thank them for giving us all of those bonuses.
That's nice. Meanwhile I've been buying some emotes because like I was having way too much fun with the macros, especially with like the job changes. It's like I found out, oh, they had like a go posing rangers back in like 2016.
Yep.
If there's
There
one
was a Power Ranger style event, and then there was also a
Garo.
yes, my name is also in the end credits of 2.0. I
And
actually used my real life name instead of like my character name.
yeah, if there's one thing I'm hoping that would be nice to return, because like I understand why they discontinued like the Garo items, because it's like licensing and stuff like that. It's like, man, it would be so nice. It's like the closest thing I get to like tokusatsu in Final Fantasy 14, and I already have the poses. It's like
Yeah, to
there's
me, I only got the paladin gear. I didn't get anything else, and it wasn't even the dyeable one because I'm not a fan of PvP. So I never went through and did a lot of PvP. So I got the uncolored gear from the Golden Saucer.
yeah. Actually, can you still get like the Garo gear from like Golden Saucer? That's my one
Nope,
question. Nope.
you
Right.
can't get
That makes sense.
they're completely gone from the game.
Yeah, that makes sense. It's like, man, it would be so nice if they have like a sequel to like the Go Posing Rangers. It's like,
They might, because it's been people have been asking a lot about the Garo set to come back, so they might end up like creating their own like unique gear set for it,
yeah,
like
that would
Power Ranger style set.
be so nice, because it's like it's a nice way to work around like license. That way you don't really have to worry about licensing.
Watching that end credits of 2.0, it's like an hour and like 45 minutes of like just end credits.
I mean, you know what, one thing I did was like when I was going through the credits, I just skipped to look for your name. And it was like, yeah, because I know you showed it earlier in one of your streams. So yeah, I fast forward the credit, because the credits are like the only cutscenes that I skipped, in a sense. And yeah, I just scroll through your name just to see it. It's like it's really neat that they treated the legacy players very nicely.
Well, see, that was the only thing like I mentioned earlier at the start of the stream. That was the only thing I thought they were going to give us was just the legacy status where we got like a discount for the game, the chocobo, and just our names on the credit, and I was happy with that. But they surprised us with the fact that all of the legacy players have a completely different base 2.0 story than everybody else.
Yep.
We get voice acted scenes that nobody else sees. We get a complete voice acted scene that not even regular players see.
Yeah, that scene with Sid was actually looked really nice.
Like that's what I did on my video on YouTube. It's like I posted that like the differences between the two, and like we literally start in the middle of a field, like the Warrior of Light does in the opening cutscene.
Mm-hmm. And yeah, that honestly, think that's really about it for now. That's all I have. You want me to like share your channel or your YouTube channel or something? Because I haven't.
Yeah, if you want,
All right. Actually, let me try. Let me look for it.
you can share the YouTube channel. You can share the my gaming Twitter if you want. But yeah, it's right now. I'm just trying to get my last 2 jobs to 90 and maxing everything out to 90, and then after that, it's just kind of working on doing savages, gearing my characters up for the rest of the expansion, and just going around and helping other people that are in the game.
All right. I found the channel.
Only the characters that were used in 1.0, because I can create a brand new character and it will have the stories from or like the cutscenes from a regular like base player. So in my YouTube, you can actually see like the difference in the cutscenes and everything like that I was showing. Because in like when you start in 2.0 as a regular player, you start on the carriage or on the boat, depending on if you're on Limsa, and then you have the twins there next to you and everything like that. But for me, since I already knew the twins in 1.0, I literally teleport in the middle of the shroud in a like a column of light, like he does in the cutscene, and then we walk up to the same side of the cliff and look over, and then we literally walk to our hometown.
Right.
And then in that cutscene for the hometown, it's completely different, because when it starts, you actually have a voice acted scene with Louis Soir explaining about the events of Cartano that happened and how he teleported the Warriors of Light beyond the rift to prevent them from getting killed. And then the scene where it shows like the exterior of Ul'dah and everything like that, the cutscene is completely different camera angles and a completely different music. It's using the 1.0 music for that town. So like they really did take care to tailor the 2.0 story for the 1.0 players that kept the game alive. But it's on my YouTube channel, so if he links it, you can see the video there if you're interested. Because
that's a good idea.
I noticed that some people, like, there wasn't any videos or barely any videos talking about it. So
let me get that video, because it's a really good video, honestly.
it's subpar, but
I mean, I like the content of it. Legacy versus base player video. Like, sure, it could be better, but for the most part, you kind of tackled on some topics that like most people don't really seem to talk about, like especially that one with Chrono Trigger. I thought that short bit of about Chrono Trigger was really neat.
yeah, I need to get back to making more videos. It's just I've been engrossed in Final Fantasy XIV.
Same, honestly. Same.
So since I'm gonna be done leveling, I literally only need I need 14 more levels on my Reaper and then 20 levels on my Sage, and everything's 90.
Yeah, the Sage is gonna be Sage is practically gonna be super easy since they're healers. Does this? Yeah, Kat. I probably should have told you that this be crispy, Lamal. Yeah. So, yeah. Meanwhile, I have to move on to my current goal, which is get. Let's see. So, the the only ones I haven't actually unlocked yet are like warrior and dark knight, because it's like they're tanks. They're gonna be easy to queue up for duties. So I'll do those after I level up at least the physical DPS. Because like right now it's going to be bard, then machinist, and then ninja, and then dragoon. Because my idea is, okay, I'm leveling the ranged DPS. They share the same gear. Ninja shares the same accessories with the ranged DPS, so I'm gonna level up that one after, and then it's gonna be dragoon. Since like by the time I should have, it's gonna be fairly easy for me to get like all the poetics that I need to get all the ninja gear, and then it will allow me to focus on like the to focus on dragoon. And then after that, it's going to be tanks, and then black mage, and then conjurer. Or I somehow find a way to level up conjurer and black mage simultaneously.
Conjurer and Black Mage simultaneously is really not going to be that. You're still going to have the difference in the gears, but the lower level gears are similar up until level 30.
Yeah,
Then that changes.
right. Other than that, what's this? I've I I think that I'm pretty much done with talking for tonight. It was a lot of fun. It didn't it wasn't exactly as how it turned out, because like I thought I would be able to bring up all this stuff that I wanted to discuss, but it's like not it wasn't really able to do it as well as I thought I could. But for the most part, it was a fun discussion. It was nice talking about it with, especially with a legacy player.
I mean, even though it did get kind of sidetracked, but it's going to happen because, when you have viewers that come in and kind of like ask questions or give their inputs, it kind of makes it a little bit more interesting than just going through and like following a set script of
Yeah,
things. Because seeing other people's input about how they enjoyed the game or how they see things about the game kind of gives you a different light than just one person's views. So that's why it's always good to have like other people kind of hop in, you know give their opinion on it, because that's the whole thing. It's like everything about the game is subjective. Like you're going to love some things, you're not going to love some other things, and same thing for everybody else.
and you're not going to
So
be able to do math.
or know
Well,
how magnets work, or
that'll
find
affect.
out where the heels are at.
That'll always be funny. I think actually, speaking of one last thing, because I was watching this video, common mistakes that new players make. One thing I only found out through watching that video was if I do like if I say apply, I'm an astrologian, and I apply aspected benefic before the tank is able to like fully draw in all the mobs. I didn't realize that some of the aggro would get passed on to me.
Yeah.
That's something I only found out because of that video.
Yeah, if you cast regen on a tank, when a tank pulls one enemy, he's only hit that one enemy. Everything else only aggroes because he aggroed one enemy. And then the moment you get that tank gets a regen tick, everything is going to be like, ooh, tasty healer, and they're going to run after you.
Yeah.
So you still want to throw the regen out. It's just that a lot of healers don't run to the tank and stick with the tank.
Instead, they
When
stray
you're
away
doing
a little bit first and then apply the single target regen first.
Well, not even that. It's just like, if, as a tip for a healer, if you are going to be healing a tank and they're going to be doing large pulls, what you need to do pretty much is the moment you cast the regen so that they start their pull, is you sprint and stay right on top of the tank. So this way, when everything aggroes you,
It goes back to
the
the
tank,
tank, right?
all the tank has to do is one AoE attack, and everything's on him, and then you can just move back out.
Right.
If you stay behind, then the enemies are going to run all the way through the tank and to you, and then it's going to make the tank have to run and try to do an AoE to get everything off of you.
Right.
It's really all dependent on the tank. If you have a paladin, then if a paladin happens to have enough oath gauge bar up, he can literally just cover you, and then everything goes to you, and all of the damage gets directed to the tank or to the paladin, and then they can just AoE and get it off of you.
I've actually never used
If
cover throughout my whole experience, throughout my whole leveling as a tank. I really should do that more. If like,
cover is a fantastic thing, and a lot of tanks even use it in endgame raid. So, like, let's say like you had a tank that died, and he gets resurrected. Well, the
you
main
apply cover on him so that the
you apply cover on him so that when he takes a tank buster, that damage goes to the off tank, and then it doesn't kill him because he's already weakened.
yeah. Actually, speaking of off tanks, I have still yet to apply my learnings of like the purposes of shirk.
Perk, you use it specifically when there's tank swap mechanics.
Yeah.
So if there are certain bosses later on in the game that when it does a tank buster,
It
the
applies a debuff
next hit,
first.
it applies a vulnerability debuff, and then the next hit will insta kill the person that has that debuff.
Right.
So when you are doing stuff like that,
you have to shirk.
what
shirk so that the other tank can provoke, and then they take.
Well,
the
no,
tank buster.
provoke will take the hate, but you do the shirk so that you lower your hate enough so that when you do your you continue doing your attack rotation, you do not rip hate from the other tank because you still have tank stance up.
Right.
So that's the whole point of shirk, is so that you can just slightly lower your hate on the list and not remove or not take the boss back off and then get one-shotted.
Right. So they provoke and then you shirk, and then that's when you just do you continue with your rotation.
Yeah. The other thing that shirk can be used is the same thing that rescue can be used as a healer, is to just fuck around, and then you can just shirk the hate on a healer and then let the tank or the boss just tank buster the healer. I've seen that. We've done that multiple times. I as a healer have rescued people into AoEs to get them killed. You know, it's like, and I do that with like friends for fun. Like in Shadowbringers, in Dawn Meg, at the very final boss actually creates like a tightrope you have to walk through or like run across, and to have to destroy the shield.
I've seen gifs of that.
If somebody falls down, and like we're about to break the shield when they're trying to walk across again, I just rescue them into the holes.
I think I saw a gif of that where somebody was walking in the tight line. It was like, "Yo," and somebody else in the chat was like, "Yo, check this out!" And then he jumps and then falls into the pit. It's like, okay.
Yeah, don't use gap closers in there. Don't use just
you can't.
You have to walk.
The sprint. The sprint is not worth it. The sprint does.
No, I do it with sprint.
Really?
Yeah.
Like I would imagine Peloton makes a little bit more sense because it doesn't. It makes you.
You can't use
faster,
Peloton in combat.
Oh.
You can't use Peloton while in combat, and that's considered in combat.
Oh man.
Damn, that didn't count. I am. How many fates? I'm 9 fates away from maxing out Ilmeg, because I haven't done the maxing out of the fates in the old expansion, and I'm using that to level up my
Reaper.
I'm using that to level up my Reaper. And
yeah, you were talking about that when I was wondering if like maybe we could be free for like a roulette run.
Yeah, no, that's what I've been doing. Like I'm already about to max out 3 out of the 6 areas, and then I'm using the currency that I get so that I can go ahead and buy the new mount that they added for the fates.
I go into first person for the tightrope personally. Also, Alice A just blitzes the tightrope. Like
yeah, Alice A just sprints and just whoosh, perfectly. And then Alphino actually literally walks like he's on a tightrope until he's about halfway, and then he's like, "I can do this," and then he just runs the rest of the way.
I like how Alice is basically she just doesn't give a shit. She really is more brazen between the twins.
Well, yeah, Urianger is like, "Fuck you, teleport." He just literally teleports across. I'm like, Istola does the same thing. She gets about halfway and she's like, "I'm bored," and then she just ethereal manipulations across.
Man.
I'm like, I wish I could do that.
Tancred wishes he could do that. It's like, man, imagine not being able to use Aether.
That's another thing, going on a tangent before we end for the night. That's one of the things that I really like when they introduce the trusts. Doing the dungeons for the first time with the trusts gives you a lot more lore and a lot more story going on. Because they're like the first. I would advise doing it at least once in your playthrough. I wouldn't say the first time, but you can do it the first time. It's just that the biggest problem was with Shadowbringers is that you couldn't do the dungeons, like the later dungeons, unless you physically leveled up your trusts. In Endwalker, they made it so that there's two versions of this trust. There's a story version of the trust, and they're at adequate level, so you can do all of the dungeons with them. Or there's the avatar versions of them, which you level up, and then you can unlock glamours for them. So I've already maxed out all of the glamour stuff, but the entire time I was doing Endwalker, I did it specifically with all the trusts,
I see.
just so that I can see the difference in the story and like everything that they add to it.
I see. That's neat. That actually makes me really excited for like buying the complete edition. So I cannot wait.
Like, and that's how I learned a lot of the quirks for like the fights in Endwalker. Is I learned all of the mechanics just by doing it with the trusts, to the point now that I can literally do all of the boss fights without even looking. Like, I asked my tank as a warrior, I was able to do pretty much all of the boss fights in Endwalker. And I knew the exact timing for everything and the exact patterns that I just didn't need to do anything else but just DPS the shit out of it.
Mm-hmm. Hmm. Yeah. Anyway, I guess that's gonna be it for my stream for now. So thanks for thanks for everyone who attended the stream. It was nice. It was nice being able to talk about this with you, and it was also just nice being able to see the input that you guys provided. And I
Well, thank you for having me on.
yeah, it was really fun.
I need to start doing some of these myself with other people. Like, just get together with like other legacy players and kind of just like talk about 1.0 and things like that.
Yeah, that would actually be really interesting, especially since there aren't really a lot of legacy players, are there?
Well, we're the minority now because, like I said, yes, we were the ones that were there and supported the game and got 2.0 to come out. But when 2.0 launched and then Heavensward launched, you know, those are brand new players that are, base player games. So right now, legacy players are the minority or the, endangered species per se.
Yeah, especially since the game just blew up, and it's like now because it's so popular and they can't get new servers because of COVID, it's like they had to limit the sales of the game, of like,
Yep,
and
which
even
is the
suspend the
second time they
ability.
had to limit the saves.
Yeah, you were talking about it earlier when I was setting up. The first time was like Stormblood, right?
No, first time was 2.0 release.
Oh,
They had
2.0
to
release.
like the release of 2.0, they actually had to stop the digital sale edition of it because there were just too many, like they couldn't the servers couldn't handle it
And
at
they
the time.
prioritized the legacy players, I guess.
Not the legacy players, it's just anybody that has a physical copy of the game or the current like a active copy. It's just they stopped selling the digital one because they just didn't have the capacity at the time.
I see.
They weren't expecting that many people to start the game.
All right. Yeah, that does happen. It's like that was quite that's quite a turn. It's like it's interesting to see how like Final Fantasy 14 outgrew especially WoW, because it's like even Yoshi P also points out he still really likes World of Warcraft for the most part, especially as a game. And he's just a guy who's really into like MMOs.
Well, he likes the base World of Warcraft, but he's really not happy how the game has gone in a sense of like um the monetizations and like the things like that.
Yeah,
So,
he understand.
you
Yeah,
know,
that's fair.
he understands that the when it first came out, it was a pinnacle of like MMOs and how like the gameplay was and things like that. But Final Fantasy just took what WoW did great and
Improved on it.
blew it up,
Yeah.
improved on it, and gave us a story that's just phenomenal.
Yeah, that's honestly something that I like. And especially it's one of the reasons why I've grown a lot of respect for like Yoshi P, because like as someone who does play, who does play like the games that he's making, he understands like what are he understands as a customer like what are the things that feel bad when you get them, or like you feel about that how they went about it.
Well, it's like the recent media tour. If you've not seen that, when he was talking with Asmongold,
Hmm.
um something came up that Yoshi P said, and then he like had to hold back a laugh because he was talking about like how a lot of developers like make up stuff for the games and everything like that. And he literally like his friends would even ask, and himself would be like, "Do these developers even play their own game?" And that's literally what Yoshi P said in the middle of the media tour, and you could see it in his expression when it came up. Like Asmongold and Rich like literally like face palmed and just started like giggling, and it's true. Like 90% or a good percent of the developers do not play their own game. They just do what the higher ups tell them to do, and that's it.
Yeah,
But that's the difference with the new Final Fantasy XIV development team, and that's the reason why Yoshi P has been given the reins. He is now overseeing the entire Final Fantasy series. He is the owner of the Final Fantasy series while he works for Square Enix. He's making 16, and any Final Fantasy game past that, he's going to be the one his team is going to be the one that's going to start working on it.
I didn't really like the direction that Final Fantasy took from 15 because like I still enjoyed the turn-based combat for the most part, but I'm fairly excited for 16. Although I have low expectations, but I'm fairly excited for like 16 because at least from what I'm aware of, Hideaki Itsuno is the combat director for 16, and I love Devil May Cry 5, and and I have faith that he will do 16 fairly well because he already did Dragon's Dogma beforehand. So he has some experience. So he has an idea of like how combat in like a medieval age sort of game would work out.
Well, you also understand that like the reason why like Final Fantasy 15 was horrible.
I mean, I never really played it. I just didn't really like the direction it took.
Well, the reason Final Fantasy 15 was as bad as it was because that was actually Final Fantasy 13 Versus.
Yeah, actually, now that I think about it, yeah, that does make sense because I
And
really
it
remember
also
seeing this.
doesn't help. It also doesn't help that Tetsuya Nomura was the one running it, and you see how long it took Kingdom Hearts 3 to come out.
Yeah.
He is a good character designer, but he's really bad at game development.
Also just bad at stories. It's like I heard about the things about 7 remake. It really, no offense, it really just comes off as like someone inhaling their own brain fart. Or like
seven is not bad. Like 7 remake is not bad. It's just to me, I'm not happy the fact that you don't get the full game. You don't get the story. They're just
it's not the original story. It's basically a sequel.
Yay, more porn.
Oh God, I hate this.
And they're spamming it now.
God. Port. Thank you, YouTube. At least you're useful to some extent.
Like, okay, so we'll end with that then, and everybody have a good rest of your weekend.
Yeah, I will be heading off as well. Have a good day, everyone. I hope you enjoy the rest of your weekend also. Well, bye everyone.
Laters.